Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Pageau.
The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by MediaClip, Photo Finale, and Advertech Printing. Hello again and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Today we're joined by Ginger Hartford, the Enterprise Account Manager of Artistry at the Michaels Company. Hi Ginger, how are you today?
Doing great. Good to be with you all. Thank you.
Many of our listeners and readers will be familiar with you because you've been in and out of the photo industry for a while in framing and custom decor, and you actually spoke at one of our events back in 2019. Thank you so much. And now you're with a company that is doing some really interesting things in the wall decor category and the maker category. Can you talk a little bit about what the artistry segment does within Michaels?
Sure. Well, it's a great compliment to my background in the business of art and design and strategic partnerships. But artistry, as the B2B division of the Michaels companies, we work on strategic partnerships, really filling a service, full-scale fulfillment services, print, high velocity framing and manufacturing. So it's an opportunity to leverage North Carolina, Texas, and Canada footprint for manufacturing and fulfillment facilities. So we serve a number of partners in the photo space, the e-commerce space, online aggregators. It's a really growing market to the trade. Different retailers that are looking to build out art programs, photo to product, print, and framing programs too.
Now, you did mention manufacturing, and that's something I wanted to touch on because you mentioned before we started that Michaels, in addition to being probably the largest craft retailer, among the largest craft retailers in North America, you're also a manufacturer. What kind of things do you make here in the United States?
Well, it's interesting as relates to the photo and industry as well, because we manufacture molding. We manufacture and specialize in manufactured hardwoods and also MDF profiles that are really suitable for digital products and for e-commerce providers or wall decor, very competitive. But having a domestic solution in these times, issues and supply chain issues, right, is a real advantage. So incredible design and manufacturing on the molding side here in the U.S.
And you're vertically integrated, right? You're not reselling those to other people. This is your own product, your own design, your own moldings, right?
Yes, and as applies for our partner programs too.
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you specifically was about design trends that are happening in the photo wall decor space, because that's something you've been intimately familiar with. What are some of the trends that are happening? Because from what we're seeing on our end, there was a big boom in 2020 with people, they were sitting home, they had not much to do, and they started printing a bunch of photo stuff. And they started redecorating their houses. And that kind of actually, from what I've been hearing in the industry, it kind of tailed off in 2021. People ran out of pictures, basically, or they ran into their walls. So did the company experience a similar trough and it's coming out, or what do you think is happening in the wall decor space in general?
Well, it's interesting because I think it's a growing category. It's just diversifying, and canvas is in photo to canvas is so incredibly strong. But we're seeing more large format pieces. We're seeing more creative specialty print, if you will, treatments to the photographs. I mean, we live in a digital and a graphic design inspired world. Right. And there's so much creativity happening in creations that are now being transferred out across photo to product as well. So on the wall decor side, we're also seeing a lot of acrylic and wood-based substrates, which are perfect. In fact, recently the Arts Awards happened, which was sort of the Oscars of the art and design and industry.
I saw your post on LinkedIn on those.
One of the categories was wall decor. So you had your companies like Paragon and Itinerant Studio and Howard Elliott that had diversified wall decor. And the company that designed company that won the award for wall decor was Itinerant Studio. And I believe that their focus on sustainability, on wood products, photography, large format drove quite an impression. And so they earned that arts award for wall decor. So that was telling on the trend side.
Well, I think one of the things that you've hit on, which is kind of interesting, is the sustainability piece, because especially with substrates like bamboo and things like that, where you can still print in an environmentally responsible way. How do you think the industry should be conveying that message? Now, granted, an acrylic probably isn't the most environmentally sound substrate on the planet. I don't know if that breaks down over time or not, but certainly a lot of the wood-based substrates are.
Right. It's a great point. I think calling attention to it, the demographics and younger demographics, they are really leaning into that, and they education, and it's almost becoming a bit of a requirement, if you will.
Sure.
Like, what are you doing as a vendor or supplier or a resource that has some kind of sustainability or certification or just commitment to higher standards in sourcing and reproduction. So I think to your question about what do we do to shine a light on it a little bit more is just better positioning and more of a highlight on the sourcing and the product and why sustainable matters.
Or that it's even happening. I think that's part of what's missing is the message that it's even happening. That, a lot of the labs that I talk to are, reducing their carbon footprint. They're buying offsets. They've got their waste down to negligible levels, if at all. And they're now getting into, or putting in solar power so they don't consume as much energy, fossil fuel. So I think as an industry, there could be more of that. Is this something Michaels corporately also champions?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sustainability is key for us. Of course, we have a huge retail footprint. So the one thing that impresses me about the organization is just their commitment to operations, commitment to process and people. And so that is very well regarded and thought through.
So we talked a little about wall decor, but the other piece of part of the you're into is sort of the maker world, right? Now that's traditionally been more crafty, right, if you will. And in my uninformed perspective of not being a crafter, that it's primarily, fabric or fiber or textiles or things like that. How is photo coming into that space?
Well, it's really exciting, actually. It's a really interesting time because when we think of the maker space, maker can be very artisan, very handcrafted, very intentional with materials, whether it's painting or fabrics or jewelry or anything. But that artisan approach is happening in digital, and it's also happening in art. So recently I attended Art Basel, for example, in Miami, so an international art fair, hundreds of thousands of attendees looking at hundreds and hundreds of galleries and artists on preview. But the maker space is, for photo, it's creativity is fueled, I think, by digital. So, and in photo, we have more and more design tools to create. We have more and more platforms to present. And so when you find that maker, that there's an entrepreneurial spirit that's really, really supporting, huge support for artists and photographers. And I think that's translating as a business in the photo industry because you're seeing more platforms support digital arts and product, photo to product. You're seeing more services feature artists and digital artists as well. Right. And so you've got companies like WeTransfer and really understanding that art and photography that matters. And they're putting together platforms for artists and photographers like We Present. And so I think the photo industry has a boon happening with the entrepreneurial and creative spirit happening right now.
One more thing that is happening in the digital world is NFTs. That's something that, again, professing my ignorance, I just don't understand. I mean, I understand limited editions. I understand physical products being sold, but an NFT, can you explain to someone who is new to this idea why this is a interesting investment as an art opportunity?
Well, it is an interesting time, and people sort of crashed the the art market with his groundbreaking sale of his first 5,000 in his NFT. But essentially, it's sort of moving forward. It's giving artists a digital platform to create experiences, and art collectors are really responding. In fact, at Art Basel, there were a number of contemporary galleries that not only had traditional fine art or sculpture on display, but they had more experiential ways of exhibiting the NFTs. And so being that you also have so many art platforms beyond your Christie's and your Sotheby's that are really investing in ways to promote and to sell and to serve that market. I've worked with artists as well that have created their own first time and started to sell and move towards platforms. So it's a whole new world digitally.
But specifically, when someone says NFT, it means non-fungible token, means one of a kind, essentially.
Right.
What is it, or what could it be? Because it sounds to me like it could be almost anything that can't be copied.
Right. Well, it's almost, I think of it as a digital experience.
Okay.
Collector, I'm buying a digital experience that's one of a kind, that's been curated or created, and the value is there. What's interesting is I noted at Art Basel, a gallery was taking a subset of an NFT and doing a smaller curation and positioning it as a limited edition.
Okay.
So it's interesting how the art market follows the art and photo market with fine photography. They follow. It will move into the digital space too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, I understand that piece. I'm just trying to figure out, okay, I mean, you're buying a chunk of data that will do something or show you something or sound like something or what have you. And it's basically yours and no one else can have it. So that's kind of cool. Now, like in the photo space, Shutterfly has done their version of NFTs for the holidays. They tried to do an experiment with it. I'm not sure the response was, but I think there is going to be some interest in photographers who have content like portrait photographers, people like that, who maybe celebrity photographers, news photographers who can really, who have desirable content, who can go this way. So I think there's a future in it. It'd just be interesting to see if it's a fad or if it's a trend. And that's where I'm kind of struggling.
Yeah. I think that it is here to stay. It's growing in awareness and traction, and it's not going anywhere. In fact, Christie's last year invested in establishing an art and tech summit where they really took an in-depth look at NFTs and what was all the changing technologies and what that was meaning for the art market and collectors. So, but it does affect artists and photographers and businesses. So Shutterfly, that's very telling that they're leaning in to try to mine how best to create experiences for that.
Because I think it does definitely skew younger in the sense where younger folks tend to gravitate towards experiences. So I think it's definitely something that will appeal to that demographic.
Yes, it was interesting. I was part of a seminar last year in Dallas where we talked about the future of art and design in today's digital world. And some of it was talking about graphic design trends and photo to product, but some of the questions that were asked were very specific about NFTs and digital and what does that mean? How can artists and photographers sell? How can they present? How can they really mine the opportunity? But it's also a licensing play, I will say. It's a great licensing play for partnerships, even in the photo to product and photo industry, because it's licensing is huge. So many
Right.
properties and iconic properties. It's another way to present collectors and engagement.
Now, does NFT, does that actually describe a technology or a process, or is it just sort of a catch-all term for this idea of it's a digital product that can't be replicated unless you buy a code of some sort? I mean, is there a, like, Bitcoin has a certain technology base? Does NFT have that?
Yes. And there, it's just, between the data and, I mean, there's so many terms that are related, data and blockchain and cryptocurrency, and it does get confusing for some. But there's also a massive community that's really focused in on this, and just, really understanding what the digital assets are and how to build identification for that, and how they distinguished from each other. There's subject matter experts in this space. I'm not a subject matter expert in NFTs, but I'm really leaning in to follow that. And here's another thing on the experience side. The museum community was really leading in experiential ways to take art to the masses. And you had immersive exhibits, you had ways to engage with the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. And those were partnerships that were happening between museums and digital agencies that could help build out experiences. And that's all, it's where art, design, and tech collide. And that's very real for the photo space, because photo is digital. So we're prime.
From your position, kind of being the at the forefront of this, you've kind of have to look at, what are the opportunities for Michaels, who has a foot in the traditional space, actually the brick and mortar space, which is about as traditional as it gets, all the way up the digital world, to doing stores and online e-commerce and everything else. So interesting spot for you to be in.
Yes. Well, I will say that as an organization, Michaels isn't really focused in on NFTs right at this moment.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. You have to look at what's down the road. I mean, sometimes it does not always pay to be the first in line.
What the focus is for industry and for the business is how to serve the entrepreneurs, the major brands that have platforms, and there's different tools coming up, different platforms coming up. There's more product, but there does seem to be a trend in more and more aggregators, where you have opportunities to serve different markets and grow different markets. And I was thinking that today it's more and more about partnerships.
Sure,
it's ever been before. Companies are really not investing as much in manufacturing. They're outsourcing. It's like, how can we partner to serve greater markets, faster turnaround, and high quality products? So that presents opportunities as well.
Because I think that's one of the things that the digital world has kind of forced upon a lot of business, including those in the photo industry, is figuring out what is it that I'm really good at. Am I a good marketer? Am I a good customer service? Am I a good production facility? And if I'm not good at one of those three, I get rid of it, or I outsource it. So I mean, there's business in the photo industry right now who just do one piece of those things, right? They do, and they can be very successful because they don't have to worry about being experts in production and marketing and customer service and everything else.
Right. It's like with companies that acquire other companies. It's about the subject matter experts that have the deep well of knowledge and resources and infrastructure, and it's a partner network these days.
So hopefully, as we move through 2022 and we emerge from our cocoons, hopefully this year, are you optimistic about the coming year?
Oh, absolutely. I don't even think we haven't scratched the surface. There's great activity happening in the home furnishings industry, and to the trade with the markets. A lot of activity at High Point, Las Vegas market coming up, and we just had Dallas market as well. So it's great to see a lot of companies that serve industry, and then also digitally online through major brands. It's exciting to see evolution. COVID and lifestyle and social trends, it's made an impact. We do life differently,
Yeah.
and a little better for that as well.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's made a lot of people reassess maybe some things, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. So where can someone go online if they want to connect with you or learn more about what you do at Michaels?
Well, we have Artistry division. And we have Michaels.com and our B2B site. So we connect there, and also through LinkedIn as well. We have a team.
Well, that sounds great. Well, thank you, Ginger, for your time and your expertise. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and hope to see you in person sometime in 2022.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to connect people and for the next event.
That's for sure.
Thanks so much, Gary.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.